Hello, and welcome back to the Grown Ups Table podcast. I'm your host, Philip Schmidt, and today's episode is about integrity. In today's episode, I interviewed Mr. Kai Burk. I've known Uncle Kai my whole life, and I can't think of a better person to represent this topic. Here's how that interview went. Okay, so how do you personally define integrity?
I think for me, it's about being real and reliable. I think it's being somebody that shows up, keeps your word, and you're not a different person in different circumstances. The word integrity comes from, I guess, a root word that means completeness or wholeness or soundness. And we think about something that's integral. It's not an accessory. It's core. It's vital. It's the essence of the thing. To me, integrity is being the same person through and through, and you're not a different person in different situations in front of different people. To have integrity is to be real and somewhat vulnerable with people, in that you're showing who you really are, warts and all. You're not flaunting the warts, but you're not lying about them either.
Mm-hmm. Can you share a time where your integrity was tested?
I don't think I have a bombshell story, but I think the biggest things I always think about are the pressure to tell people what they want to hear, whether that's a client or a boss or a friend or your wife or whatever. Just to kind of move things along and to avoid conflict, you sometimes just lie, right?
Yeah.
Just to me, it's also about doing what you said you were going to do and honoring those commitments. And you want to make people happy and you want to be a people pleaser, but at the same time, if you can't do it, sometimes you just have to say no, or I'll try. And instead of saying you'll do something that you won't, just own it.
Was there ever a moment in your life where you really got to understand the true value of integrity?
I can't point to a single moment, but I think we've all known people that nobody trusts, or everybody realizes that they're fake. And I think just seeing people that nobody believed or everybody knew they weren't going to deliver on what they said. I think just looking at that and going, I don't want that to be me. If that makes sense.
So we did talk, or you said something about how it can be easier to just tell a lie. How do you, in your brain, handle those situations when telling the truth might hurt the situation?
I think you have to realize that the truth is going to out anyway. And especially at work, what I tell people is, if you're going to have a hard conversation, it's a lot easier to do it up front than to do it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to talk your way out of things, and the truth is going to come out anyway. So it's a whole lot better to just own it and move on and deal with it up front. People can deal with the truth. They can't deal with what they don't know.
So are there any biblical figures or scriptures that you look to in this area?
I think the book of Daniel is obviously a key. It basically is an example on integrity, right? You look at Daniel, and then you look at his three friends, and so much of what we face is small stakes. This was literal life and death. And you look at the response of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego with the fiery furnace. That line always gives me chills. It's we know God can save us. He might not, but either way, we're going to do the right thing. And that's integrity, right? And when literally everything is on the line, they knew they had to do the right thing. And they realized that there might be life consequences, but eternal consequences would be positive. I think those are those are the examples that come to my mind with integrity. Obviously, Job, but even David, like I think he's kind of the relatable model of integrity. I mean, you read the Psalms that he wrote, he talks about being upright and walking in integrity. And yet he was a very flawed individual. And you look at, the adultery with Bathsheba, the murder of Uriah, but he still had integrity. He just failed. And integrity is not about being perfect. It's about owning your mistakes,
Right.
fixing them, and being accountable for them.
And so, how does your faith in God kind of shape your view of integrity?
We have to answer for what we say. We have to answer for what we do. But also, like Jesus says, fear not those who can kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear the one who can kill both body and soul by casting it into hell. That's who we're answerable to. And ultimately, everything we're dealing with is small stakes. And I mean, realistically, most of what we look at as huge moral dilemmas are not life and death. But even if they are, God still will take care of us.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of changing course here and talking about integrity in your life and how you apply it, it can be very easy for a lot of people to not realize that they're breaking their integrity. What are some common ways that you believe people compromise their integrity without realizing it?
Have you read all of the terms and conditions that you signed?
No.
I mean, I think it's kind of a joke, but I think just go along to get along, and just when you know things are wrong, and you just let it go because you don't want to cause a scene. The little white lies here and there, and everything's a habit, right? Character formation is a habit, and so when you just do the little things that compromise your integrity, it makes it easier to do the next big thing. And so, as Jesus said, he who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. You have to be faithful in the little things too.
So how can someone recover after a failure of integrity?
I think you got to own it, and I think it's important to own it to the people that you wronged. Go to God for forgiveness, but I think it's just important to be accountable and to own your mistakes, do what you can to fix it, and then realize that you've got to do the next right thing. I think the other thing is you've got to have grace with those that you hurt, because you've got to realize they're not going to trust you the same way, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to earn the trust. It hurts when you go to somebody and you say, okay, I'm sorry I messed up, now let's move on, and they don't just move on, but you get that, and you have to allow for that. You have to realize that you're the one who messed up, and you're the one who has to, over time, build that trust back and fix it.
So I got two more questions for you, and these questions are more for people who are realizing that this might be an issue in their life and that they need to kind of build up and help fix this. So what things do you do that keep you in this mindset of integrity?
I mean, I think reading the Bible and prayer obviously helps. I mean, Proverbs and Psalms, especially Proverbs, has a lot of practical advice, just on integrity and being courageous and making the right decisions. I think also, there's a lot of leadership podcasts that kind of talk about these kind of things, and just you need to surround yourself with examples of integrity and be encouraged to pursue integrity as opposed to the other way around. Because so much of what we see in common culture is discouraging integrity. You're a sucker, right? And I think that's probably part of it, is remove the negative influences that are just telling you it's okay, and you're a sucker if you're not doing it. And seek out advice, seek out examples of positive integrity, and then realize that you're gonna make mistakes, but I think do the next right thing is probably the best advice. Is like, yeah, you're gonna fall down, you're gonna screw up, and you can't let that spiral. You've got to you've got to use the next opportunity to do the right thing, and then it's a muscle that you build. It's a habit that you form over and over, and you just have to work at it.
Right. So, do you have any final words you'd like to say about this topic?
I think I think the metaphor I've always liked about trust and integrity is just it's a bank account, and it's made up of a lot of little deposits along the way, and withdrawals are really expensive, and they can bankrupt you, and so you have to realize that when you do screw up, you've got to. It takes a lot of time to build that trust back, and you have to understand and own your mistakes, and then you have to realize it's going to take time.
Okay, so moving into the rapid fire section here. So, how do you start your day?
Usually about 15 minutes late, and grab a shower, fix a cup of coffee, and hit the road. Right. Aspirationally, I would love a better morning routine, but not really been one for a while.
Right. Are you more of a morning person or a night person?
Again, aspirationally, I am a morning person.
Right.
My kids made me a night owl, and maybe when they're all gone, I can get in bed early and get up early.
What is a piece of advice that you wish you had heard when you were around my age?
I think two things. One, just realize that life is not about the big moments and the big events. It's about the small decisions every day, and that really your life is the sum of the small decisions you make along the way. And so often you think about, okay, when I graduate high school, it'll start. When I graduate college, it'll start. Right. When I get this promotion, it'll start. When I get married, it'll start. When I have a kid, it'll start. It started, and like it's going right now. Whether you're 15, 18, 21, 25, 40, like your life is moving, and you can't always be chasing that next thing and think that, okay, when this happens, then I'll be ready to do the right thing, because there's always something else.
Right. Well, it's been nice talking to you, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
And with that, we now conclude this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.